You're listening to Paul Carey.
He's the first person to do... what?
If you've not watched these two videos, then you won't know what all this is about. The links are in the description panel. There is a YouTuber whom I shall simply call JVD, as I've promised to keep his real identity secret. On 30th of June 2007 he uploaded a video revealing alien speech patterns in radio emissions from Saturn. I recognised these alien voices as I'd encountered them before and was well aware of their existence and their origin, so I set out to show everyone the truth of these alien speech patterns with solid proof. On the 1st of November I released my own video containing recordings of the same alien speech patterns but from a completely different original recording and processed with an MPC instead of Cool Edit. I promised to reveal the source of my original audio at a later date. A couple of months later JVD visited my channel and remarked on the similarities between our recordings. What he didn't realise was that he'd just swallowed a poison pill. It was clearly labelled as poison, but he chose to ignore the warnings and gulp it down anyway. He hadn't paid enough attention to my video to realise that I was parodying his claim and mocking his fantasies. It's an interesting video, this one. Kooks are so eager to believe any old bullshit and will swallow nothing but bullshit wholesale that they lapped up my claims of alien speech, neglecting to spot all the little clues that I was taking the piss, even though to anyone with an ounce of common sense it was plainly obvious. The video was in the section marked comedy for crying out loud, and I even advised viewers in large friendly letters to check their sense of humour. But kooks don't notice little things like these, you know, those things everyone else calls facts, and they eagerly post the evidence of their willful gullibility for all to see on JVD's video and my own. What I'd kept secret for 9 months was that the source of my own audio was, well, anything but alien. It wasn't even any kind of biological organism. It was really just any old crappy audio that just happened to be convenient. So once the video was released, over the next 9 months it recorded as empirical evidence in the comments section that digitally pitch shifting some arbitrary audio will cause plenty of kooks to drool and have palpitations over what they want to believe are alien voices. JVD himself bears witness to this fact with his own comment. Even though I started leaving bigger and bigger hints in the comments as to what this noise really was, kooks don't investigate the facts. They only swallow tasty fantasies, even if they're poisonous ones with the already declared ability to bite back at some point in the future when I release the punchline video. I eventually produced the sequel to reveal the source of the alien voices because my aim was to educate with humour, not to pander to the delusions of kooks and crackpots. So, as a matter of courtesy, before publicly revealing the punchline to my 9-month-long joke, I sent JVD an invitation to view the explanation and suggested that he gracefully sidestep his delusional claims by admitting to a hoax before I reveal my punchline. I was giving the guy a clear way for him to save face rather than be ridiculed for making claims that have absolutely no credibility or foundation in fact. My punchline video contained all the proof needed for anyone to see and demonstrate to themselves that JVD's claims were false. Did he thank me for taking the time and effort to solve and explain the mystery? Did he? Heck, he had a hissy fit when he realised that I was about to expose his bogus claims with proof. Oh, cognitive dissonance is such a bitch. Showing himself to be just another kook, he downrated a couple of my videos, removed me as a friend, unsubscribed, and then sent me a mail bragging about his YouTube honours history, as if that proves anything about his claim. It just shows that JVD is only interested in the admiration of fools. He also told me to suck his balls and made what I can only describe as a thinly veiled threat. Does this sound like an invitation to a friendly drink? Not to me it doesn't, especially not when considered in the context of his other actions. So I announced the release date of my punchline and brought his thinly veiled threat into the public arena within that announcement. I'm the wrong person to threaten. I do not tolerate threats, especially not from dimwits who don't have the intellect to realise that they were beaten 8 months ago. Now, I would normally consider that publicly revealing the contents of a private mail is the height of indiscretion. I don't mind if people want to try and ridicule or insult me, but if you threaten me, you cross the line. It is not in the best interests of anyone but the intimidator to allow threats to remain secret, and so I recognise absolutely no duty to leave this particular conversation in the private sector. He'd already been told that I will call him on his bullshit and expose it, so he cannot complain at me now. Perhaps he thought about his actions. Maybe he realised that I might break my word and blow his anonymity after being threatened by him, thus shattering his public career by linking him to his crackpot claims. He fears that linking his name to this bullshit might damage his public career. See? He doesn't realise that I value my honour. Luckily for him, his identity is still safe. For now. He apologised, but his behaviour didn't improve, as you will see in a moment. I then explained very carefully, line by line, why a digital pitch shift pollutes an audio sample and thus invalidates any claim of discovery. Most certainly I'd already demonstrated to his own satisfaction that this is the case. I explained that he was basing his claims on polluted data. I explained why and how the data was polluted, line by line, time and time again. The punchline has a scope shot showing the pollution happening live. He ignored it. Notice that after explaining my case a number of times and proving it, he challenges me to explain explain my case. Typical actions of a kook. You can't prove me wrong, so I must be right. I'd already shot his claims out of the water. The moment he identified the similarities in the two recordings, he accepted my proof without realizing it. When I unveiled the proof, he didn't want the truth. He wanted fantasy, and his cognitive dissonance was eventually going to make him run away and sulk like a little child who'd just been told that Santa is a lie. He didn't want any of that nasty thing called truth. Nasty facts and proof make Santa and all the fairies go bye-bye. When I reiterated the proof once more, very simply, so that there was no way he could deny it, thus having to admit that his claims are bogus, he sent me an email and blocked me. He really didn't want to hear the truth, and he just had to get in a defiant last word. I'll show you the email at the end of this video because the kook finally admits what he is, and you might find it as funny as I did. He's still deliberately deceiving other poor gullible fools, knowing that his claims are bogus. He claims not to believe the official explanation for the audio, which is auroral kilometric radiation, not chunks of ice. He denies that the digital pitch shift causes artifacts which pollute the audio. Let's prove it once more, shall we? With Cool Edit this time, JVD's chosen tool of butchery. I normally do my own audio work in dedicated hardware because I don't rate the reliability of the modern OS, especially that garbage called Windows. It matters not. I used my MPC to make my own alien voice video, and it was convincing enough for JVD and others, but just to give the dreadfully pathetic little kooks no escape, I'll use his own tool to show everyone what this idiot is really claiming. Here's a sine wave. In an analog world, to increase the pitch usually means to shorten its play length because we play the audio faster. Raising the pitch by 1 octave halves the play length. However, in the digital world we can go one step further. We can alter the pitch and still maintain the original tempo or play length. To make its play length the same as the original, the computer needs to create extra data to pad out the sample. The computer is creating data which was not there in the original sample, although it is derived from the original data. Thus, the computer pollutes the audio. You might as well make an essay or a story longer by simply copying and pasting passages from elsewhere in the text. Sure, you'll end up with more text, but it will no longer convey the same meaning, if indeed it actually makes any sense at all. Look, here are those artifacts. This is the source of those patterns which JVD is claiming are alien voices, and he knows it. I spent enough time demonstrating it, explaining it, and proving it, but he's not interested. He prefers his fantasies. He'd rather lie to himself and any gullible idiots he can find. He'll even lie to people who know better, but when they explain the facts, he gets aggressive, threatens, chooses to ignore the truth, and continues to peddle his bullshit, holding up the praise and admiration of gullible fools as some kind of evidence that he's right. That is a serious logical fallacy known as the appeal to the masses, and is the mainstay argument of so many other kooks and morons. The original signal is auroral kilometric radiation, long-wave radio emissions from the interaction between the solar wind and the planetary magnetic field in the auroral acceleration zone. We already know this. That's what Cassini was studying at the time, and we have a reasonable understanding of the mechanisms behind the phenomenon. ET is unlikely to ever use the 1 kilometer band for communication in space because it's so noisy. All that planetary kilometric radiation would make for a very high noise floor and hence a very poor signal-to-noise ratio for anything but the strongest signals. They would likely use a much quieter band, and SETI professionals realized this years ago. They built the Big Ear telescope because they decided that ET shouting, "Hello, we're out here," would use a quiet band, so Big Ear was designed to listen in a band that had minimal natural background noise. Of course, kooks don't think about these things, do they? That would mean accepting facts which destroy their fantasies, and they're not interested in losing their warm, cozy fantasies. Cognitive dissonance has a lot to answer for, doesn't it? So, if you see someone claiming that alien voices have been found in a radio signal from Saturn and trying to convince someone of this bogus claim, tell them that they're repeating lies and bullshit, then please show them my series of videos on the subject. Cause them that agony of cognitive dissonance by proving that they bought into the irrational delusions of a kook who claims to be an English teacher and a musician. He must think that the rocket scientists, astrophysicists, astronomers, logical analysts, philosophers, SETI researchers and other assorted scientists and technically proficient professionals with years of real practical experience in their field and billions of dollars worth of custom technology are obviously stupid and totally incompetent. They have just been outclassed by an English teacher with a copy of Cool Edit. Yeah, right. That's why NASA pick their astronauts, researchers and technicians from the staff room of the local school, is it? What? They don't? Then that's probably where they're going wrong. That's why they don't know the answers, and JVD does. Does that sound about right? This guy, claiming to be an English teacher, doesn't know the difference between a statement of fact, a loaded question, and a presentation of theory or opinion. Some English teacher. I'd have run rings round him when I was 10 years old. He claims to be a musician. He's using Cool Edit, and his ears and brain between them cannot tell him that a digital pitch shift pollutes the audio. Some musician. Cloth ears and sawdust for a brain, judging by the evidence I see before me. He's a liar and a thug, with no regard for the people he threatens nor the bullshit he spouts to anyone who will buy it. Is this the kind of guy you want teaching your children? Would you accept the claims of someone who deludes people into believing that he has found voices in digitally polluted data even after it has been proven beyond any doubt that the so-called voices are simply digital artifacts? So let's have a look at that last email he sent as he blocked me. How did JVD finally react when he had no rational choice but to abandon his bogus claims? Let's see his attempt at getting the last word, shall we? At least he had the presence of mind to admit that he's a cunt.